And this lesson 2.3, it's all about vocabulary and skills development. So we were working on collocations during the previous lesson. And this next part of that lesson, we are going to be given some tips on how to take notes effectively. Talking about international exams, this is one of those skills which is essential when we are presenting a test. This is not something they tell you explicitly, like make sure you take notes for answering to the audio, for instance. They don't say they don't say that to you, but that is essential if you want to have the information that you need for answering in the listening section. So taking notes is very important in that scenario. And we know that it is important in lots of different other spaces, not just in terms of academic spaces like presenting tests or taking notes in your classes, but also in any sort of context. This is a set of skills which is very important. So they ask you a question here. Think of some situations where you need to take notes as you are listening. So we won't go to the breakout rooms for this, but we know that there are several situations in which we do that. First of all, when you're attending a class, but also in an international exam, there are some cases in which you, for instance, have to take notes if you are in a meeting, or talking about professional contexts when you are, give me a second, let me just double check something. When you are in a meeting, guys, there are some cases in which you have to take notes. And you have to take the minute of a meeting. You know what take a minute could be? Let me just put it like this. Because if you say take a minute, I'm going to take a minute. That means like I will wait, for instance, 1 minute. But if you are taking a minute in a meeting, what does it mean, guys? You know that? That could be it. If you
That taking a minute would be that just to wait or to think for a minute the correct
nope.
answer the correct way.
It's related to writing. That's my clue. It's something related to writing.
Yeah,
Take minute is
oh,
okay.
no, go ahead, Felipe.
No, go.
Okay, take a minute is like write a document, yeah, with the information that was given in the meetings, yeah, or something like that.
That is right. That is right. Felipe, you wanted to say something?
Gesture was like exactly the same.
Yep, exactly. So the minute, it's that document that basically summarizes the contents and discussions that were that took place during a meeting. How do we say that in Spanish, by the way? Acta. Like, you have to be careful because minuta también existe en español, ¿no? Pero minuta es otro tipo de documento. Es parecido, o sea, una minuta y un acta pueden ser casi lo mismo, pero tienen unas implicaciones legales un poco distintas. Pero en este contexto, like to take a minute is tomar un acta, tomar el acta de una reunión. So that's just an example. And have you guys ever taken a minute of a meeting? I mean, it's complex. We may say that that's something very easy because it's just writing what you're listening to in a meeting. It has, it's complex. That's all I'm saying. It requires certain skills, you see? So it's not just writing like there's no tomorrow. No, it has got some science, let's say. So that's why taking notes is important. I know that it sounds so obvious to say, oh, taking notes is important. We know that, right? But the thing is that this is the kind of thing that we say, oh, it's so obvious, so easy. But when we have to do it, we say like, wow, it's not that obvious, it's not that easy. So that's the point. And it's not just about writing itself, but about how do you pay attention and how you are able to filter information so you decide what's important. So it might be a little bit complex. So guys, we're gonna do a little listening exercise. And look at this. It says a university student magazine interviewed 6 people, all answering the question, how do you take notes? You guys are going to listen to the 6 interviews and write down each person's response, okay? You have to write down each person's response. So yeah, that means you guys have to write down 6 persons' responses. Then we're gonna double check that. And then we are going to answer this. Which bits of advice do you guys find, did you find most useful? We are not going to discuss it in a breakout room. We're gonna just do it here, okay? So just take notes of the 6 answers. And then once you have finished that exercise, you're gonna think, okay, which of these pieces of advice I believe are the most important or interesting, okay? So give me a second as I open the audio. That's the audio 2.6. I think I need to share my screen again because I'm not sharing audio in this moment. Give me a second. Okay, guys, can you hear the audio?
2.6. 1.
Yes, teacher.
Do you
Can
ever?
you? But because I can't. Oh my God, what the hell? Wait a minute.
Audio 2.
Okay, now I can't. That was weird. How come you can and I can't? Okay, so remember, 6 people talking about how they take notes. You gotta take notes on how they take notes, and then at the end decide which bits of this of advice you guys believe are the most interesting. So let's do this.
Audio 2.6. 1.
Do you ever have to take notes?
Yes, I usually take notes in business meetings at work.
And do you have a particular way of doing that?
I usually make notes about the agenda. I use the agenda items as headings, and I highlight the action points, particularly mine, so I don't forget what to do for the next meeting.
2.
Can you tell me if you ever have to take notes?
Oh, yeah, all the time, in lectures and seminars, things like that.
Have you ever been trained how to take notes?
Not really. I just picked it up through practice.
And your top tip?
I guess it would be to listen for key words.
And how do you know what the key words are?
They're usually stressed in some way. Like, the lecturer says, so it was the economic situation rather than the political. So you know to write economic.
3.
So tell me how you take notes.
My technique is to write down everything.
Really? Everything?
Yes, because you never know what information you're going to need later.
Do you even write down words like and the?
Well, yes.
4.
Hi, we're doing some research into how people take notes.
Okay, well, I take notes at meetings usually.
And do you have any particular technique or strategy?
Not really. I just type straight onto a tablet. I can type much faster than I can write.
And you put down everything?
I never write details. Things like statistics or examples.
5.
Any advice for note-taking?
Well, when I was at school, I was taught a lot of abbreviations, like the plus sign for and 3 dots for therefore, and so on. And I found that to be really useful. Also, bullet points are great, because if you're writing a list, you can make it very clear which are the items on the list and which is extra information.
So you have a special system?
Not really. I don't think it matters what your system is, as long as you can reconstruct the lecture from your notes afterwards.
6.
You've been studying here for a couple of years now, so I guess you've been to a load of lectures.
Sure have. And talks and seminars.
And have you developed a particular way of taking notes?
Not especially, but I find it's very useful to try and listen for the structure of the argument. The best lecturers really signal the direction their talk is going. So I would say listen out for discourse markers, linkers, and conjunctions.
Such as?
Things like because, and therefore, and in addition. Also words and phrases which introduce examples. Then I use little symbols like 3 dots for because, or e.g. for an example, or a plus sign for in addition. It's easy to get confused and not be sure if something is an example or a new point.
There you go, guys. So there were some really bad bits of advice they gave you, but there were some other cases, especially the last two, in which we could say that the feedback would be a little bit more useful. So, okay, give me a second. Give me a second. This is exactly the exercise 5B. Just taking some screenshots over here. Okay, guys. Oh, wait a minute. Where am I? There you go. Okay, guys. So let's try to see exactly what their answers were. So in the case of the very first, what did they say in the case of the first person who was interviewed?
Highlight the important points.
Highlight important points, right? So when you're taking notes, I mean, there are ways in which you can do that. So that's something I always do. So for instance, when I need to highlight anything on my notes, I circle certain, sentences, or actually I never write sentences when I'm like full sentences when I'm taking notes, but it's like you can circle certain things, right? So, or if you have got a highlighter, well, use a highlighter. That could be an option. And also, they said there that, well, that's it, basically, highlighting sections. Then in this, what about the second one, guys? What did they say about the second one?
To write down the keywords and focus on the stress of the lecture, of the words of the lecture.
Keywords. So focusing on keywords, of course. So if they are talking about, products, concepts, names, whenever these names are introduced, that's something we should for sure take notes. And also the intonation of the speaker could tell you on the importance, which is something that works both ways. So if we see that the speaker is putting more stress, more emphasis on something, it means that that something is more important. But also that means that when you are talking, we put somehow more emphasis on certain things. And that's something we do with our intonation itself. So that's what they say. So listen out for keywords and stress words. What about the third one, guys?
Write down everything.
Yeah.
What do you think about that one?
That is unuseful, I think.
That's useless. That is right. That makes no, I mean, even let's say you can. Let's say you have that capacity. You write so fast and you can do that. Let's start by that, because it's not like something that we can as humans do very easily. But let's say you can. At the end, you would have just the script of a lecture, for instance, and still you would have to filter so you can focus on the points which are important. So that bit of advice is not that interesting. Try to write down every word the speaker says. I don't think so. And what about the number 4? That's even better, right?
To write the important things or examples.
Well, what she said is that she never writes down details or examples, which is exactly the opposite to what you guys should do, right? So that was a very silly example there, because they say, I never write down examples or details or like statistics, she says. I mean, no, that's exactly what you should take notes of. You see, so it should be exactly the other way around. But the number 5 was interesting. What did they say? What did that guy say?
Was about abbreviations and bullet points.
That is right. So the use of abbreviation and bullet points, that could be perhaps one of the key strategies that we should use when we are writing notes. And I'm actually just having a look at my notes, and I always use bullet points. I believe that's essential because that helps you somehow organize, the structure of what it's being said or whatever, which is important. So there you go. Then the last person, what did she say?
About the structure of the argument, to be focused on the structure of the argument and the discourse markers, linkers, and conjunctions.
There you go. So she says, like, if you should focus on the structure of the whole argument, and to do that, the best way to do it is to focus on discourse markers and conjunctions. That is very good. And actually, when you're taking notes, that those because, for, since, from, that's something that you don't have to write the words, but you can develop your own symbols system for that. You see? So for instance, in my case, every time I have to say like for or yes, like for, I always use arrows. So it's like, let's say I have a bullet point, and then I have an arrow that connects that bullet point with another bullet point, and that's how I understand that one thing is the result or one thing is a reason for something else. It's like I have different kinds of arrows. That's what it's like. As we talk, I'm just checking my notes to see those patterns. Perhaps if we can, what the hell is this? Okay, that was interesting. I've discovered certain things I didn't know I had here. So that is very funny. Whatever. Okay, guys. So yes, those are some of the techniques that we could use. But as we can see here, guys, in this unlock the code, we've got the actual techniques they suggest. So they say key techniques are only write the main points. So clearly writing every single word makes no sense, and that's why they say write next. Don't try to write every word. Try to use the speaker's stress and intonation to help decide what the key points are. So that's something we are not focusing only on the words and the meanings of each one of the words, but also on their stress. Listen for linkers, as this person suggested by the end of the audio, is also very important, and use bullet points, abbreviations, and signs. That's also something very important to do. Yes. So guys, we're gonna go to the breakout rooms now just to answer these two questions. I mean, these two exercises. So in the exercise number 7, I would like you just to think about how these different listening situations could be more difficult than others. So what you guys are going to do is basically to put these listening situations in order from easy to difficult. So it's how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's rank them from 1 to 6. 1 being easy and 6 being difficult. Okay, and once you have that, guys, I would like you just to answer this question, which is something we're gonna discuss here. What's the difference between hearing and listening? This is something we somehow discussed 2 days ago, but I'd like you guys to have it like super clear. Okay, so we're gonna take just 5 minutes to do this this exercise and answer that question, and then we'll be back here, guys.